Hello and welcome to Maker Monday! Today we are doing something a little bit different. Today we are making bat wraps. This is not in any way jewelry related, it's not chainmail, it's not bullets, nothing that you're used to from me on this channel. Today we are in the sewing room, or really our kitchen. So without further ado, bat wraps. I'm Melissa Pickle of Metals and Pieces, and here we are for Maker Monday. I hope you guys are aware of the major wildfire issues in Australia, and if you're anywhere on Facebook and do anything related to crafting, you might have seen all of the posts out there from the different craft groups about people making bat wraps, joey wraps, koala mittens, any of the above, everything that they're shipping out to Australia to help with these animals that are being desolated from these wildfires. So we're taking it upon ourselves here at Metals and Pieces to do bat wraps. Ta-da! Here's a finished product. And you might be asking yourself, Melissa, what in the heck is a bat wrap? So I will show you. This is my demo one, and then we're gonna make one together, okay? I don't have a stuffed bat, so pretend that this fox right here is a bat. And the bat wrap, is a long piece with a squishy pillow at the top. And what they do is they put the bat on top and then roll him up like a burrito, and it becomes like a bat burrito. It provides the bats with comfort, easy way to transport, and it keeps them snugly warm. So this is all very good stuff for these bats that we want to help. So let's get started. If any of you follow me on Facebook at the Metals and Pieces page or the Metals and Pieces fan clan, then you might have seen the live I did on Monday about shopping in Joann's. And I was picking out fabrics. To make the bat wraps, you requires 100% cotton fabric, okay? They asked for flannelette, but they said any kind of 100% cotton will be just fine. Now, when you look at the patterns, they're in centimeters, and here in America we work in inches, so to do a little bit of configuration, it's strips of fabric that you're using. So each strip is to be 25 centimeters wide, which works out to 10 inches, and 120 centimeters long, which works out to 47 inches. Now, if you know anything about fabric, most bolts in the US are 44 inches wide. So I kind of turned the pattern on its head, and when I went to the cutting desk, I asked them to cut me sections that were 47 inches long. All right, and I'm going to show you what I mean in just a second, because we're going to turn everything on its side, and this way for each 47-inch long piece of fabric, I'm going to get 4 bat wraps. Here we go. Okay, so here we go, looking at the end of my fabric. And this is folded in half, exactly how I got it off of the bolt. And I'm gonna be really lazy. Each of the bat wraps are supposed to be 25 centimeters wide, so that works out to about 10 inches. And I know that my piece of fabric opened up all the way would be 44 inches. So I'm looking at this, and I'm marking it at 22 and a half, that's fine. Half of that would be 11 and a quarter, so this will get me 4 pieces. I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't have a rotary blade or a cutting mat. Well, no, I probably do, but I don't have them in easy access. So I'm gonna do this the really easy way, which is you cut a small piece in your fabric where you want it done. So you can see here, I've cut a little bit there. And then if you're new to sewing crafts, this might scare you a lot, but you tear it. And there you go. Perfectly cut when you need long, straight edges. So there's one, and I also cut right here. So I'm gonna do, it's very satisfying. So that's part 1 done. Next, fold your piece of fabric in half and line it up so your edges are straight. Depending on the cut you got, that may or may not be easy. And I'll preface this to say I am both a trained seamstress and a very lazy sewer. So, you're probably going to want to use a lot more pins and all that fun stuff than I do. Next step is we are going to mark out 10 centimeters from the end here. This is where the pillow section would go for the bat wrap. So there's marking out 10 centimeters, and I'm just going to put a pin right here. This shows where I'm going to start my stitching. Okay, now I'm gonna bring it onto my sewing machine and I'm gonna stitch an edge about 1/4 inch this way, this way, this way, and this way. And I'm gonna leave this gap right here open. That gap is where you're able to stuff the pillow from, okay? The pattern calls for the stuffing section in the pillow, which is gonna be right here. However, the call is so big for bat wraps right now that you don't have to stuff them. Volunteers have said they will stuff the pillow wraps themselves because you can ship more in a package without the fluffy pillow section. Just keep them flat, all right? So next it's to the sewing machine. I'll admit, this is a little awkward. I've never sewn anything on camera. I'll also preface by saying this is probably considered a piece of junk sewing machine. One of those Walmart like Black Friday specials. But it works. It does the job for the little bit that we need to get done. Like I said, I'm a lazy sewer and I don't tend to pin things if I don't necessarily have to. What you want to do is start. I have my pin right here. You can just see it. That is the start of my 10cm mark. I'm just going to put in a couple of stitches. And then I'm going to reverse stitch to seal that up. Good. And here we go. Ooh, I ran out of bobbin. Uh-oh. Matching colors and all that stuff do not matter for these. You do not have to be fancy. But again, one of the biggest things is to have no loose threads and no big gaps because you don't want anything that animals' fingers or claws can get stuck in. I'm gonna go back and do a quick back stitch to lock it in and then keep going. Rotate for my final side. And I'm gonna back stitch again. There we go. Make sure that you cut all of your strings very, very close. You don't want anything catching. Now we need to make our pillow section, which first things first, we need to turn our fabric inside out. I'll give you one of my sewing tips because you want your corners to be really good. So you're gonna go ahead and just cut. See the point right there? Cut a little bit off of there. If you want to use pinking shears instead of regular scissors, that's good too. I'll pull mine out and knock the camera. I am not used to sewing with a camera stand. Kind of weird. Now we're gonna turn this inside out so we can make the pillow section. So you're just gonna pull everything through that 10cm seam that you left. You want to kind of get your edges and your corners like as pulled out as possible. A Melissa tip you may or may not know. When you're working on corners and you can see it's really like tucked in and rounded there, and you really want to pull your corner out and you just can't get any more of it with your fingers, take a pin or a needle and you can like work that corner further out and get nice sharp corners that way. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side right here. If I was being really, really good, I would iron all of this fabric before doing the top stitching. But that would involve bringing out the iron. I don't have a sewing room, so I don't have an iron just sitting out and around. So I'm not gonna do that part. There we go, that's 2 corners, and we have 1 more corner left to go. Ta-da! Nice corner, right? Now we're gonna go back to wherever you're cutting or measuring or such surface is. Okay, so now you're gonna grab your ruler again. I'm using just a tape measure. And you're gonna measure in that 10 centimeters from the end. And I have a piece of chalk here, so I'm just gonna mark that so I know where it is. I'm gonna do it on both sides. Then if you're good, you have a ruler, but honest to God, any kind of straight edge will do. I think this is a piece of molding, but it'll work. And I'm just gonna line up my 2 marks there and draw myself a good chalk line. Ta-da! And I'll look that up a little closer and hopefully you can see it. Can you see it? You can see it easily. There we go, now you can see it. Ta-da! And I'm gonna stitch that straight down. I'm gonna line up here my end. Make sure that everything is folded out really well. There it is. Again, always remember to backstitch. And go for it. And backstitch again on the end. Beautiful. Now back to your opening and your pillow here. And it's time for the polyfill. If you're going to stuff your bat wraps, you do it now. And they prefer for these things to use polyfill. So, just like you would any kind of pillow. And like I said, you do not have to stuff them if you're sending them to Australia. If you're sending them somewhere in the US, then I don't know. But if they're going to Australia, they have said straight up they have volunteers who will stuff and stitch and do this part. They would rather everyone ship out a lot more bat wraps because they can do it more effectively and cheaper to ship them just flat instead of pre-stuffed. So, and what is the proper amount of stuffing for a bat wrap? Is that you don't want it hard, but you don't want it super soft either. So you should be able to compress like almost halfway. So like I'm gonna need a little bit more. So like we can do a little bit more stuffing in there. And I'll be honest, if you are not an experienced sewer, the next part is hard. And one part of this project that I do use pins for. Now that we are all stuffed, here's the tricky part. So we're gonna take the edge and we're gonna fold it in and we're gonna pin it so it's just like as if it had been stitched the other way. Okay? You don't need to blanket stitch or anything. We're just gonna fold it in and stitch it up. Getting this on the machine, yeah, that's the hard part. Okay, so you can see that I'm all pinned right there. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna stitch this section and then we're just gonna keep on going doing an edging stitch there. As always, before you get started, do a couple of stitches and then back stitch to really lock it. And I think that just pulled in all of my bad threads. I'm gonna have to pick that out after. Yep, that sounded bad. We're gonna keep going though right now. And hope that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. This is where, like I mentioned before, like if you press it, you can be confident in all of your edges. I'm gonna be checking every so often to make sure that they're all pulled out nice. How straight you sew does not honestly matter for this. The bats aren't going to care. So if you're using this as a beginner project or to teach kids or any of that, it's fantastic. You can see we are getting close to the pillow now, so it's gonna get tricky. It's very soon. My advice, if you can, is try to squish some of the filling over to the other side. Push it back. Because this part is hard. If you thought the other side was hard, just wait till we're doing this side. If you have to pause and you're sewing, always make sure the needle is in the fabric when you pause. There we go. And now we're going to make sure we get all the way up there and back stitch a bit. And pull it off. You're all set. Remember thought I heard bad stuff on this side, so yeah, that is a whole thread knot that I'm gonna have to pick out before I will call this bat wrap done. You don't want to see that. And ta-da! You have made a bat wrap. A bat burrito, whatever you want to call it. And it's ready for a bat to snuggle. Ta-da! My arm span is not quite long enough to do it all myself in one go. The first time I saw Linda do this to a piece of fabric, I freaked out.